Hey, welcome to another episode, or I should say mini episode of Ice Ice Beta. And I'm your host, Aaron Gary. This week we're doing something a little bit different, what we're dubbing the Meet the Maker series. Each day we'll be releasing a mini episode with an entrepreneur who is making specialty gear for ice climbers. If you've ever wanted to hear the story behind some of your favorite and soon to be favorite products, that's what we get into. We're doing this because we believe that thoughtfully designed gear is more than the sum of its parts. They are crafted by folks who have decades of experience in the sport, are refined through countless iterations and testing, and brought to life with genuine passion. I personally really enjoy hearing what inspired someone to start something and what led to certain design decisions. And hopefully you find that interesting too. Wrapping it up this week, on today's mini episode, we talk with Kyle Siegel of Raide. Stick around to the end for a discount code. Hey, Kyle. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You're on the clock. The pressure's on. What's the elevator pitch for Raid?
Raid develops gear that balances weight and function for backcountry skiers, split boarders, and ski mountaineers that care about uphill performance and downhill performance equally.
You state that it was born out of frustration, but let's dive into, a little bit maybe about the inspiration and then in that light, some of the frustration that led you to start this company.
Yeah, I basically had tried a lot of packs and as a backcountry skier had evolved to someone that's paying attention to my fitness and like my uphill speed so that I could ski more and tackle bigger objectives. And I felt like minimalist packs were making me slower through them being uncomfortable and not being able to access my gear inside the pack very quickly. And then maximalist packs were heavy. So I felt like a lot of the gear on the market just wasn't nailing the balance that I wanted. And I felt like a lot of other people probably wanted the balance I was looking for. And the specific moment that happened is I spent like $600 on like a custom pack that weighed like 900 grams. And I took it on Rainier and it had a side zip access and a roll top. And my skis were A-frames on the upper mountain of Rainier. And that blocked the side zip access and the roll top. And then it was like one of those days where like the clouds would like cover the sun and the wind would pick up and it would get really cold. And then the sun would come out and it would get really warm. And, so I was putting layers on, taking layers off, and then on a big objective like Rainier, which we were just doing in a 1-day ascent and descent, uh, you're getting your snacks, you're taking out your glacier kit, stuff like that. So at the end of that trip, I was like, I need to do something about this. I want to develop my perfect pack. And I actually went more down the road of like, let me just try to make one custom pack for myself with one of the more smaller makers in like the ultralight backpacking space. He ended up not having the bandwidth. And then, I was like, I think I can maybe make a bigger company out of this and started down the process of designing it. But then the project really took off when I got into one of the best technical pack factories in the world. So that's a key distinction of this pack. It's getting made at the same factory as Mammut, Osprey, Backcountry Access, and a lot of other bigger brands that are making really quality product. And so you're getting like a fabric that we'll speak about later in the podcast that none of the big brands will touch because it's so expensive with the quality those big brands get with the factories in Vietnam.
Well, it's been described as a do-it-all pack. So it's everything from skimo to ski tour, great for uphill and downhill. Can you just dive into some more of those considerations that you had when designing a pack that was so adaptable? You talked about some sort of high-level parameters that you wanted, but maybe could you talk about how the considerations play out in the features themselves too?
Definitely, definitely. And I'll make a distinction that, it's do it all for backcountry skiing. So I wouldn't recommend someone taking a 40-liter pack in the resort, and that applies for, like, uphill skinning in the resort as well. It's just more than you need. Uh, I take a Skimo race pack on the resort when I'm skinning for fitness, and I would tell Skimo racers to also use a Skimo race pack and not the Raid LF 40 liter. Um, but it's lighter than the smaller volume packs in the 25 to 30 liter range that most people are using, while also expanding to 50 so you can take it on your biggest day objectives and hut trips. And then I'd say, like, you're going to be pressed for space if you're going on an overnight trip where you have to bring a tent and a lot of insulation and stove. You can make it work if you're going with a bunch of people for a couple days, but it isn't made for that. So the range is like, short tours to hut trips. Um, and that really excites me. I hate changing packs like day to day based on what I'm doing. And so, yeah, the considerations, I'll start with the downhill considerations because that's a lot shorter than the uphill. And then we'll dive into like the uphill considerations when designing a pack. So, downhill, to make a pack ski well, you really want to decrease the depth of the pack and also not have the weight be super high on the pack, as well as having it be close to the body. So on a lot of more like alpinism style packs, they might be in the 10 to 11-inch wide realm. And then to hit the volume, you either have to have more depth or more height. And both of those are bad for skiing. So our pack is 12.5 inches wide, which is what you'll find from some other ski packs, like the Hyperlight Prism, a popular ice climbing pack, is 11 inches wide. And so we maximized what we felt was like a good width for most people so that we could bring the depth down and the height down. And then on the uphill, there's definitely a number of factors. So I think it's like weight, access, comfort are the really big factors, in my opinion, for uphill performance. So weight, you obviously want to minimize that. So we were trying to get as close to a kilo as possible. And then access, basically, like when you're skinning, you're changing layers, you're accessing different tools, snacks, sunscreen, stuff like that. So anytime you're digging around for your stuff, you're losing time. For me, like, back panel access was a must. It basically gives you access to everything inside your pack with one zipper, and it's all right in front of you. And it's also always accessible, regardless of what you have on the front of your pack, whether it's skis, snowboard, ice tools, etc. It's always really easy to access. And then we have a stash pocket on the front, so you can even like stash layers, gloves, without having to touch a zipper. So it's really fast. And then the last is comfort. If you're uncomfortable, you're not moving fast, or you're constantly kind of like shifting weight, pulling on straps to adjust the pack. And so I didn't want to compromise on comfort to hit the weight. A lot of the weight in the pack is from the foam. And so we have 9 millimeters of foam in the shoulder straps, as well as a full aluminum frame. And you're not going to find that in a lot of ski packs. And we are able to accomplish that while hitting the weight through some other innovations we did. Like, you have 9 millimeters of foam at the top of the shoulder straps, but it tapers down to 3 millimeters at the bottom where you don't need it. So little things like that add up to a comfortable pack. And all of those add up to making you or not slowing you down on the uphill.
Are you willing to talk about more of the weight saving innovations? Because I know that you're using a particular fabric too.
Yeah, so the fabric is really cool. It's from this American-based sailcloth company that just recently entered the outdoor space. Most people know the fabric as Dyneema. Dyneema is like the name brand, similar to how Kleenex is a name brand tissue. So the actual like generic name is ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And It's used in all of the ultralight white packs that your listeners have probably seen all over. The difference between the construction that I use and other packs on the market are it's a woven Dyneema opposed to a Dyneema composite, and that makes it more durable. With a Dyneema composite, the face fabric actually isn't Dyneema. So the abrasion characteristics you get are that of the face fabric, not the actual Dyneema under the face fabric. With the Dyneema woven, the Dyneema is the face fabric. So our fabric, it's called Ultra 400X. It's 2 times more tear resistant, 8 times more abrasion resistant than DCH 150, which is probably the most common other fabric you see in ultralight brands. It's also fully recycled. It's the only like 100% recycled Dyneema construction that I know of, which is very cool. And they figured out how to dye it. So the pack is offered in a white and a black. And I don't know of any other Dyneema based ski pack that comes in black. I know of some like very small niche pack brands like Chamorro that have gotten their hands on this black fabric, but nothing from the big brands that I've seen.
So you started, you went to the small maker, he didn't have capacity, so you started doing it on your own. What was the design and prototyping process like?
As I said, I got into one of the top technical pack factories in the world in Vietnam and basically send them designs. Then you get prototypes back and then you continue to iterate. We actually did 9 prototyping rounds, which a lot of the bigger brands from my experience at the North Face, they're doing like 3 or 4, partially because they just have their systems really buttoned up. And it took me some learning. So that's why I had more, but also because I was holding myself to a really high standard and also experimenting quite a bit with ways to drop weight without sacrificing some of the other important design principles of the pack. And in order to hit the timeline for the season, I went to Vietnam. And it's really cool when you go there because, you can work with the different people at the factory, whether it's the pattern maker or the person in charge of research and development. And then you can actually visit your suppliers. So I went to the foam supplier and tried like 10 different versions of shoulder strap foams. You have the actual foam density you can play with and the thickness you can play with and punching holes in the shoulder straps. And it's just finding the right balance of weight and comfort. And so, like just trying 10 different versions, weighing them, feeling them, and like saving 5 grams per shoulder strap is what we ended up achieving. And that took like a whole day, but 5 grams is important to me. And all of that adds up. And going to Vietnam and having that experience was really eye opening and was pivotal in delivering the pack that is the end product.
Why should ice climbers be interested in this pack?
Yeah, I think from my knowledge of ice climbing, which I'll just tell the listeners, like my dabbling in ice climbing is to access ski lines, which I think is a really cool way of accessing ski lines. But I don't go out for a day just to ice climb. However, I just from designing backpacks and outdoor product, I understand what ice climbers want and what skiers want. And I think there are some cool innovations that have been developed in ski packs that a lot of ice climbers will like. So from my understanding, like I'd say one of the more popular ice climbing packs is the Osprey Mutant or the North Face Phantom pack. So those are very similar design. It's one large pocket and that's top loading access. So anything at the bottom to get it, you're either taking out a lot of your stuff or digging around your pack. I also think they will lend themselves to like needing to bring more weight for organization. So you're like putting your stuff in stuff sacks. My pack is pretty much, I don't know the Osprey Mutant pack off my head, but I know we're within 20 grams of the Phantom 38. And so a lot of ski packs now have this back panel access, and that just makes it so you lay the pack on the ground, you can get to anything in your main compartment very quickly. So I think ice climbers will definitely enjoy that feature. The other thing that was important to me is having like a really clean outside of the pack for climbing, and I actually think a lot of that's something I actually took from, like, more of the alpinism style and ice climbing style that I think a lot of ski packs are lacking. I call it the anti-Christmas tree design principle. I don't want anything dangling from the pack, so I wanted to bring that point of view to the user of the pack. So I have things like the picks of the ice tools are completely enclosed and they fit more technical ice tools with a curved shaft and not just like a Petzl Gully, which is the most popular ice tool for skiers. And then when you're ice climbing, you're always bringing a helmet, or I think most people are bringing a helmet ice climbing. And for us, that's a frustration I've seen that I have with ice climbing packs and skiing packs, where often the helmet carry is an afterthought. And I don't like the kind of strap on elastic helmet carries. We integrated the helmet carry right into the pack. So it's very secure. And what you get from that is you can put stuff inside your helmet and know that it's not going to fall out. So I actually put my crampons inside my helmet, which is a nice place for them to sit because they're not next to your fancy Gore-Tex expensive jacket. So I think all of those things add up to a pack that's really great for ice climbers.
This reference is gonna date me a bit, but you're kinda like the Cordell Stewart, slash of new product makers in the outdoor space. Do you know who Cordell Stewart is?
I don't. Please explain.
He was, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers in, like, the late 2000s or early 2000s, I think, late 90s, I think. But he was called Slash because he was one of the early, like, hybrid players. He would play quarterback, obviously, quite effectively, but he was also, like, a running back and a wide receiver, and I think he maybe even did, like, punt returns at some point. Which was to say that you, have quite a varied set of background and experiences. So, we'll do a little bit of a list. You've done hardcore engineering at places like SpaceX, and then you're in the outdoor industry, think of the North Face, and then more recently, you've worked in tech. And so being able to pull upon these diverse experiences and in different fields, how has it shaped the way that you think about products? And then how has it shaped maybe how you've thought about your company and then maybe the pack itself too?
It's been cool because I really feel like Raid has pulled on every job I've had in my career. So SpaceX really taught me that anything can be accomplished pretty much. I knew designing a pack wasn't going to be harder than designing a rocket. So I didn't let like constraints stop me from trying to advance the pack design and things like I mentioned before, just tapering the foam from 9 millimeters to 3 millimeters. I've never seen in another pack before. And I just tried to think of out of the box ways to cut weight without compromising the important design principles. And then North Face was like the really practical experience learning like how to communicate with factories and the production calendar and how to test products, how to think about the category I'm putting a product into, as well as giving me just like a lot of connections in the industry to draw upon for questions. And then I worked also at the outdoor company DB, which makes like more travel bags. And there I worked on some products, but also have helped them a lot with their website and marketing channels. And that allowed me to, not pay a ton of money to develop a website and have that experience and really like have a lot of the skills to take on more of the company outside of product development myself, which allows me to like save money and helps me in delivering the product at the price point that I delivered it, which is lower than I'd say our most competitive pack. Yeah, I think that all of those experiences add up to like help me like have enough skills to be dangerous going into starting this company, but obviously a lot of it I'm still learning on the fly.
So the product name is the FL40 Fast and Light. And so are you planning on releasing other types of models similar to Arc'teryx where they have like the AR And I'm actually forgetting the other acronyms, but
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the LF40, light and fast. I think Arc'teryx, they have the FL, which stands for feather light. We do have plans in future seasons, not next season, to do a ultralight line. So that will be UL and just strip a couple of the, I think, things we added to the pack that are really, really nice to have, but aren't absolutely necessary. And then we will be also working on a line of packs that integrate avalanche safety technology into the pack, and that will have a different acronym.
all right, this is the last question, and it's a long one for me. One of your stated objectives with RAID is to, quote, support big objectives, audacious goals, and the seeking of the uncomfortable. So for you, what are some of your audacious goals? Could be for the company or otherwise, and what's the discomfort that you are seeking?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think before I'll dive into myself, I'll just touch on that like company goal, which we're supporting those goals with our product, like delivering a product that we think helps people accomplish their big objectives. But also, as we grow as a company and have more money to spend on supporting athletes, I'm really excited about supporting athletes that are pushing the sport and going out into the unknown. And so for me, like first descents really intrigue me. Um, and that gets at one of my personal goals, which is uh, to do a first descent. And it's not just to like have the label of doing a first descent. I think really it's the experience of going somewhere no one else has gone with skis. And uh, for me, like the reason I like backcountry skiing is it's a combination of athleticism, but like if you only cared about the athletic side of skiing, you would just go to the ski resort. I really like the mental, intellectual, problem solving aspect of backcountry skiing and ski mountaineering. And that problem solving is hardest on first ascents. You have no prior information really to draw upon. So that's why that really intrigues me, as well as like supporting athletes going out and doing a first ascent. I'm already really excited about Jim Ryan, who's one of the athletes on our team who got a first ascent with the pack on in New Zealand in October, which is really cool. So those are the like audacious goals for me personally. And like I think I'm targeting some lines in Alaska at the moment. But for the company, you know, we're trying to take a swing at creating a company that's not just around one product, but really dedicating ourselves to delivering amazing product for backcountry skiers. And also, we probably will go into trail running in the future. We'll be entering an apparel next year. That's an audacious goal and something I'm very excited about. And then delivering something in the avalanche safety space, which won't necessarily compete with airbag packs, but will bring a lot of people into the avalanche safety or an added level of safety realm that like me don't use an airbag pack because they're too heavy. And getting into that brings on, testing and certifications and is audacious to kind of be entering that category and apparel in our second season existing. But I have a deep need for these products we're developing. So I personally just want to get them to market as fast as possible so I can use them. And I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy them.
Rock on, man. Awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, keep your eyes peeled, folks, for the future of Raid. And Kyle, thanks so much for being on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Want to put an LF40 liter to the test this ice season? Kyle is offering 15% off at their store, raideresearch.com. That is RAIDE research.com. And the code is ICE beta 15.